Earlier today, Bethesda shared some news around the up-and-coming Fallout 76 DLC, as well as the update that will go along with this DLC. The expected release date for this new update is going to be on May 7th, although certain parts of this are coming out after the fact, but I'll touch on that. And in this video, I'm going to go over all of the new news we did get, but even further, actually add in some of the data mined or otherwise leaked content that fits in with the new information. And for those of you that do watch to the end, I may have a few other just teases that I may have heard through the woodworks that are also of interest. If you guys do enjoy the content, you can leave a like or subscribe, but without further ado, let's look at this new information around Fallout 76, its updates, and its new DLC. So it's looking like patch 9 will almost certainly be the biggest for Fallout 76. We're getting the new questline with the Pioneer Scouts, which I did talk about last week. You guys can check out that video if I missed it. And actually touching on that, since my last coverage of it, we found new data mined information around Ever Upwards. Bethesda did mention how there's going to be a new event added in with this. We have found out through data mining that's going to be known as Campfire Tales, and it seems like this was going to be interactive stories where the players could actually maybe vote on which direction they wanted to go, as you could see here by the yes selection. But even further, more data mining has revealed that it'll be interactive also in the sense that at different points through the story, it looks like you'll actually have to go and do things physically. So you have a robot telling you this campfire tale, but then you'll have to go actually act out parts of the campfire tale, such as fighting off some of the enemies. But also through all of this data mining, you could find many references to campers that were a part of the Pioneer Scouts actually going missing to shadow monsters. As of right now, it doesn't seem really all that clear what the main story behind Ever Upwards is actually going to be. The only things really mentioned are the new event I just talked about, but even further that you're going to become a Pioneer Scout and try and build through the ranks and earn merit badges. I assume there'll be more to it than that though, like actually things to do. So I wonder if part of the story will actually be either looking for these missing campers or finding out what those mysterious creatures might be. We do still have that mysterious vault in the game, and one of the other quests in Fallout 76 ties in one Pioneer Scout to going to a vault. We don't actually know which vault, but hey, maybe that vault's connected somehow. Either way, there's actually quite a bit still unknown about what is going to go on as far as story goes with this DLC, so that does keep me hopeful, but at the same time, that could also mean that there isn't much of a story at all. But outside of that, we're actually getting several other pretty large gameplay changes, bug fixes, or even just new content. One of the first things Bethesda shares details on are these new up-and-coming vending machines. Vending machines actually have a kind of interesting history. They were supposed to come out already, but were delayed, so hopefully that means as they actually do release, they will be working correctly. But even further, they were actually in some of the original trailers for Fallout 76 that we saw all the way back at last year's E3. In effect, these vending machines coming on May 7th will work kind of how you expect. You'll be able to set them up at your camp, select certain items that you do want to appear within the vending machines, and then set a certain price that other players can come and actually buy from these vending machines for. When they actually do purchase things from your vending machine, you will be alerted to this, but even further, whatever amount of caps they pay, you only actually get 90% of this. Bethesda says there's going to be a 10% fee on all sales through these to maintain a healthy in-game economy. It's not really that big of a deal, but it really doesn't make a ton of sense to me. I don't really think this will have a huge impact on the in-game economy one way or another. But even further, after actually placing one of these vending machines at your camp will now appear on the map to everyone on your server. Right now in Fallout 76, you can't actually see strangers' camps, so that'll be a pretty notable change. But even outside of that, as players hover over your camp icon, it'll actually tell them the number and types of items you have for sale, which is pretty cool. It makes it so you'll probably be able to jump on a server, browse through some of the available shops, and see if there's anything you need or want at a decent price. And something pretty cool, since I know some people might be concerned, in this same update, Bethesda is making it so people can't just destroy your camp. Right now in game, if I walk up to any old dude's camp, I can just start breaking things down, and he doesn't have any real control over that outside of attacking me and trying to stop me. But following patch 9 in adventure mode, the way this is going to work is, in order for somebody to actually damage your camp, you will have to engage in combat with them. So they would have to attack me and I attack them back. Then they could actually start damaging things. Either way, I think this vending machine update is going to be a really cool one for the game and actually drastically change the gameplay experience. Mainly in the sense that I think there's going to be people that have really cool in-game shops. Fallout 76 already has an awesome trading community, but most of that is handled online, where I think after this update, a lot of it might actually be handled in-game. You'll be able to see players' cool bases, actually explore bases more often in general, because now you'll know exactly where they are. And I bet a lot of people put quite a bit of time into making their camp actually look like a store, which will be really cool. Overall, I think this is going to be a really positive change to the game and really up the in-game social aspect. Give another outlet for you to connect with other players. I'm excited to see it go live. I'm also pretty curious to see how it works in survival mode, because that could be an interesting way to lure people to your camp. Outside of that, we also do hear some about the legendary vendor and the legendary token system. This was something teased quite a while ago, and I actually have some additional details to add to this, giving you a bit more context than just the Inside the Vault article. So basically, this legendary vendor and trading system is going to come in two separate waves. The legendary vendor, otherwise known as the purveyor, is coming herself on May 23rd. This is going to be a new trader in the game that you could actually take existing legendary items and almost re-roll them for something better. But this new trader isn't going to deal in caps. Rather, it's going to have a new special currency that's going to be known as a legendary script. Coming this Tuesday, we're getting the legendary exchange machines. This is going to allow us to break down unwanted legendary items into legendary script, which is the currency that will be used at the purveyor. These are going to appear at train stations around Appalachia, and basically, depending on how many stars your legendary item has, you'll get more script as you actually submit it into these machines. And also, the machines just have a really cool design in general, so I definitely do appreciate that. Then once you have this script, you'll actually be able to use it as tokens at the legendary vendor. And although explicit details haven't yet been released, my understanding is the way this is actually going to work is more like a slot machine. So in other words, you might not know exactly which legendary item you're going to get with your script, but rather more similar to a reroll chance. And I would expect as a result of this system, what you put in will be less than what you get out. So if you scrap 3 1-star legendary items, it's probably pretty unlikely you'll get a 3-star legendary, because that would be a 1-to-1 exchange seemingly. The likelihood of you getting that is probably very, very low. This is definitely going to be a cool system, and I think it's actually really nice that Bethesda's adding in these new machines ahead of time, because I know, for me personally, I've been hoarding legendary items over the past couple of months since the legendary vendor was announced, meaning that come this Tuesday, I could start liquidating all of that stock and rather get the coins, which are probably just going to be a lot lighter. As far as the location of the legendary vendor, otherwise now known as the purveyor, another YouTuber named Final Render just uploaded a way to actually get into this shop where it eventually will be. You can see some of that in the background right now, but if you want to check out the full video, I will have a link to it down below. Also coming in this update, it seems like we are getting backpacks. Last week we touched on how these backpacks will have a lot of different variations, whether it be cosmetic or actually in function, such as a refrigerator or additional protection. Although it seems like at least some of these variants actually will be available through the Atomic Shop. Although it seems like this will be pretty similar to how Bethesda did this in the past. You get a new item, you could probably get the basic or fairly boring version for free, like the camera, but then buy additional skins or cosmetic changes via the Atomic Shop. Some of the things you could find through data mining right now are things like the Nuka-Cola one, the Quantum one, a Medic one, or even more of the simpler ones like a green or black alternative. As of right now, it doesn't seem like some of those custom ones, such as the refrigerated one or the armor one, will be Atomic Shop exclusives also, which is definitely a good thing. And maybe some of the skins even will be available for free in game, but it definitely also seems like, at least based off what we could see in the files right now, some of the skins also will only be on the Atomic Shop. Bethesda also shares details about future changes coming to the survival mode. Currently, one of the big dictators of what actually is happening in survival mode is who's popping up on the map. Typically, there's a lot of activity in that general area. This is because the only people to pop up on the map are those who are actually wanted, or alternatively, those who have the most kills on a given server. Well, Bethesda is actually making further changes to this system, making it so going forward, the way it's actually going to work is you're going to naturally over time generate survival points based off all the experience points you earn while playing in survival. And then the people that will actually appear on the map will be those that have the most survival points. But the thing is, when you actually kill another player, you're going to get 75% of their survival points. So the example given is if you kill somebody with 1,000 points, I'll get 750 points added to my own existing number of points. I would say this actually sounds like a decent solution, almost a middle ground, so you don't have to be constantly PvPing to become a target. You could just naturally be playing the game, although it's very likely that those who are constantly PvPing will become targets. But at the same time, the one thing that kind of gets me is, If you're somebody that's consistently getting in fights around a certain area, which this happens fairly often in survival, like if somebody's camping one fast travel point and a lot of people are going there to try and kill him, if you're consistently spawn killing people or dying very quickly, then you're not actually going to see a big shift in your survival points because you'll just be dying and getting reset. I feel like maybe it could make sense that you actually start with a default amount, such as like 50 to 100 points. Thus, somebody consistently spawn killing will rack up points pretty quickly. There also are planned weapon buffs in this patch, such as plasma gun damage going up by 30%, and the Enclave variants of those plasma weapons going up by 10 to 30%, as well as the explosive shotgun is going to be getting a nerf, although it's really more of a bug fix according to Bethesda. So the explosive shotgun will no longer do double damage, but rather get the 20% buff it was intended to with the explosive legendary effect. And finally, Bethesda is making it easier to actually craft flamer fuel and cryo cells. And even though this buff is nice and welcome, it doesn't seem like nearly enough, and you also do have the whole separate category of laser weapons that are still really suffering in this game. I think Bethesda should honestly just do like one big weapon rebalance, because even with these buffs, I still don't think plasma guns are going to be all that relevant, especially when compared to the likes of melee builds or even heavy weapon builds. One other feature for those of you that decided to stay to the end that I have heard rumblings about is actually a way to actually bias server selection. The exact details aren't totally clear as of yet, but think of it like this. As you're connecting to a server, you could choose a certain option to connect to a server with like-minded players. Like you could select an event bias, making it so when you actually connect to a server, you'll connect with other people who also chose an event bias, and hopefully you'll see more people doing events. And it seems like there might be several of these on the way as an effort by Bethesda to encourage more cooperative play, but also kind of get you on servers with like-minded individuals, which hopefully will translate to more cooperative play doing whatever you want to do together. Either way, I think the future of Fallout 76 is looking pretty interesting. We got this big update in just a few days, which is really nicely timed as I'm just wrapping up this semester and I pretty much have no assignments left. And actually, because I haven't really done one in a while, let's do a psychology fun fact. Wrapping up my psychology degree, figure I should get a few of these in before I start forgetting everything. And it's actually going to be on evolutionary psychology. This is basically the form of psychology that certain things we exhibit today are a byproduct of our evolution. A lot of people will hear the name of this one or hear some of the theories and kind of get overzealous with it. It's not really saying that everything we do is a byproduct of our evolution, just that there are certain genetic components about us that do guide us, that do almost bias us in one set direction, although experience does still play a significant role in what that direction ends up being, or kind of which gap we end up filling. And one pretty interesting example of this that will apply to almost everyone watching is actually phobias. In a modern day world, you would expect people to have phobias of things that are more genuinely threatening to them, like electrical outlets, firearms, or even cars or things like that. But in reality, most phobias are actually not like that. It's either of heights, spiders, snakes, things that are obviously threatening, but you don't really encounter. And one of the leading theories on this phenomena suggests that it's actually a byproduct of our evolution. It's almost like we are naturally programmed to develop a phobia of spiders or snakes more easily because our ancestors had genuine concerns around them. They posed a real threat to their lives. But over time, this hasn't really evolved with us. We've maintained this phobia even though it isn't as relevant to modern day lives, and it's a lot more difficult to develop phobias to more modern day concerns even though they are more concerning. And again, getting back to the point I said previously, that's not to say you can't develop a phobia for modern day things, but it is to say that it's a lot easier for us to develop a phobia for snakes than for cars, seemingly because we were pre-programmed, or genetically we are predispositioned to actually be afraid of snakes, because that to some degree guided our evolution. So yeah, it's pretty interesting, a pretty interesting topic and concept. But either way, as always, again, I thank you all for watching. Hopefully you enjoyed this video, but with that, I hope to see you all next time. Later.